deans and provosts here present, those who are unavoidably absent, the provost of the postgraduate student, my team members, Professor OLADOJA and Dr. T.O. ADESETAN, the audience physically present and those who are online. The task before my team is very simple, and it's to provide a framework, the background, the basics of research. The scripture says, should the foundation be destroyed, what can the righteous do? Research is a craft. You learn it. Because you learn it, it is always systematic. The word research comes from two words, read and search. That means people have been searching ahead of you. You want to add your own to the body of knowledge. So in research, what is research? Systematic approach in solving a problem. Why is it systematic? Because it is stepwise. Because you are guided by principles and tenets. We said it's a craft. Why is it a craft? Because you learn, you move from one stage to the other. That's why in PhD research, you do your proposal before you do your postfill. So research implies a systematic approach in doing an investigation. It is a craft that you have to learn from time to time. It is global, yet every discipline has its own peculiarity. And that's why when you go through the guideline of the PG school, there are peculiarity to each faculty, even to different departments. So you have to be very conversant with that guideline. What is the purpose of research? Why do we even make it a partial fulfillment for the award of MSc and PhD? In some universities, I don't know of anyone in Nigeria, you can earn PhD by coursework alone. But about 75% of universities in the world, you have to write a dissertation or a thesis to earn MSc or PhD. What is the purpose? Without research, we will not get a job. I will not be here. You will not be studying. Research implies trying to know more about an already existing issue, a problem that is emerging, and the rest. So research unravels a problem. It adds to the body of knowledge. There is no discipline you come from. People have been doing research. Even in your narrowest area of discipline, there are plethora studies and research that has been done. But you want to add to the volume of the existing knowledge. That is why we do research. The ultimate goal of research is to solve problems. Is to improve human welfare. Is to see problems, address it, and solve it. Is to contribute your own knowledge to the study that is on ground. So that is what research is all about. Continuous searching for knowledge. Research. And I've told you it's a craft, so we learn it. And the purpose of research is to add values to knowledge. The next thing is you have to know that research is multidisciplinary. Every discipline engaged in research. So research is global. In my team now, we have a professor from Agri. We have an associate professor from science. And now from social science. So it tells us that every discipline deals with research. Now the next thing is, when you want to start a research, you have to select a topic. That is the starting point. How do you select the topic? What are those factors you have to consider? You also have to, the first thing is start from you. You are the one conceiving the baby. Because you are the one conceiving the baby, the idea comes from you, not from your supervisor. That's why before you start the research, you have gone through a number of coursework. You have been taught so many principles, so many theories, and then in the course of doing this, you are aligning yourself with an area of interest. So you must see a problem that you want to solve. Personally see a problem. No supervisor will identify the problem for you. You must know what you intend to solve as a problem. You must also know that what you intend to do is not what has been done. You want to at least add a little value to what is in existence. You must have a personal interest in what you are doing. Every discipline has their own areas. Out of 10, 20 areas in your own field, which area am I going to? What is prompting your interest in that area? You have to know. You have to have adequate access to research materials in the chosen area of interest. You have to have access to adequate material. Even if you have interest and you are not having sufficient literature, that interest may have to go to your medium. You yourself must be sure that you have been able to lay your hands on a wide range of materials that can guide your research. What are the other social considerations? Beyond you, what comes next? Your supervisor. Your choice of supervisor is very, very important. In UI, they tell us that the success of your PhD or MSc depends about 60% on the level of your interaction with your supervisor. In the faculty where I come from and the department where I belong to, we allow students to pick supervisors, 3 of them. Then we look at the area of interest of the candidates, and the board will select among the 3 the most competent to supervise the candidates. Even when the candidates say no to the one we choose, we still listen to the candidates and allow the candidates to have a say, because he is the one going on the journey. So also it's just like a navigator guiding him or her. So you need to know all this and choose the right supervisor to guide your interests. Then how do you title your projects? Of course, you have to talk about the sources of your research topic. Where do you get the sources from? When you have talked about the extensive literature, you look at the literature and say where the gap is for you to fill. You have to look at some other reports, some other studies that have been done. You also have to discuss with experts, among the experts and your supervisors and your colleagues. You also have to look at emerging issues that are coming up, contemporary issues in the study area. You also have to have personal observation with your interest area. And then you also have to prepare for the financial engagement that is required for the journey you are about to embark upon. The next thing is framing the topic. Well, in framing the topic, it is expected that you have done enough of the literature review. It is expected that you are coming out with a very clear topic. If you are in a Greek, somebody in science must see your topic and understand what you are intending to do, even from the first stage. Clarity is very key. You don't use words that are ambiguous. You use words that are familiar with the general public. Because except on certain occasions where you have some terms that are peculiar to your own interest area. So as much as possible, you choose words that are very common and general to the public. Because the thesis is not only about you or your field of study. Anybody can lay his or her hand on that and wants to read about what you have read, or what you have written, rather. The topic has to be specific, and it has to be quite descriptive of what you intend to do. There must not be deviation from your topic and your objectives. You are still going to get that. It must be in line with the research objectives. It should not be at a deviation from the objectives. And you also have to consider your audience. Who are the people you want to address? What is the problem you want to attend to? All these are also very important. Titling a project is like naming an unborn child. Many of us have gone through parenthood before. When you conceive a child, things around you tells you the name you give to that child. That's why your Bible says, meaning that you look at the circumstances and peculiarity of the baby, then you name the baby. So in titling your work, it's like naming an unborn child. You must have an understanding of what is happening around you. I think I will talk about that when we get to the background to the study. But this is not part of the slide, but I think it's very important I mention it. Background to the study. What is it all about? If you look at the guidelines you are given, almost every discipline has background to the study. What should be there? What are those things that are key there? Background to the study actually gives you a broad-based first reference point to your study. In most of the outline, it is always the first thing to come about. Then what is there that you need to know about the background to the study? It provides a build-up to the research. Build-up. And before you can do build-up, you need adequate review of the literature. There are two different strands on what background should contain. Some school of thought say you should be citing because you don't know anything about what you are writing. Others say no. What you are writing, you have an idea, but you bring in your voice into what other people have said. I think I go with the two. Both citation and your own voice. The broad-based overview of what has been happening. And how do you write it? You write it by following what is called a funnel channel. You start globally. What is happening to the key variables of interest? For instance, if I'm working on money supply and inflation in economics, what have people been doing around it in the world? Outside Africa, in the SSA countries, in Africa, in Nigeria, maybe I now come to my study area. So the background to the study should provide us, is the first point of contact to your work. It should provide us broad-based information. And you can't do that except you have done a lot of literature, sampling and review. So apart from that, you also have to ensure that when you do research, there are two variables. The driven variable and the variable that is driving it. Call one dependent, the other one independent. You start with the dependent variable. That variable that is the major, the major variable, the variable that is being driven in your work. If you are working on, for instance, you are in agri, you are working on the effect of fertilizer on crop yield. Crop yield is the dependent variable. So you have to look at crop yield. What have people said about crop yield in the past? In those places you want to cite from, what have they said about the relationship between crop yield and fertilizer in the past? Globally, African level, before you come to your own level. That's what's called the funnel flow of the background research. That is the key thing you need in the background research. You want to provide a brief build-up to your work. Recency is very important. You must ensure that the work you are bringing, because you say something is your background, you want to look at it up to the last moment before you start your own. So when you are doing background, working on the works of 2010, 2015 may not be good enough. You have to update the background study. Then we go to the objective of the study. The objective of the study are your intention. what you want to achieve. Basically, in most of the areas, we have it broad and then the specific. Some people don't call it broad, they call it aim, the aim of the study. The aim of the study is the broad-based objective. And then because we want you to be specific, we want to narrow it down and see that the component of that broad is attended to. Then we have the specific objectives. The broad objective will only reflect your conclusion when you are concluding. But the specific objective will reflect your findings because you break it down, and then when you are discussing your finding, you have to discuss it one after the other. What are those things you have to note before you come up with your objective? Of course, 5 major things. It has to be measurable. It has to be measurable. You don't use, I have my learned colleagues from education here. You don't need at the end of this study to be able to know, to be able to understand. No. You should use words that are quantifiably measurable. You want to determine, you want to evaluate. So, from the way you even coin your objective, we know whether you know what you are doing or not. So, it has to be measurable. It has to be specific. Nobody can solve the entire problem in research. You have to pick certain area. No matter how narrow you have gone into research, you still go to the narrow of the narrowest to pick up specific objectives you want to achieve. Now, it has to be relevant both to the topic and to the society. And you also have to know that it has to be time bound. Nobody is here to do a research or PhD. You have been told about the flow chart and the rest. You have a limited time to stay here. Nobody is here to solve the entire world problem. You have a limited time to do your research. So whatever you intend to choose to do, some PhD programs, some PhD theses only have 2 objectives. I've seen one with only 1 specific objective. And I've seen one with 7 or 8 or 9. But you ask yourself a question. Will I be able to achieve this set of specific objectives? Then the research questions. There are questions you want to ask yourself. Where are these questions coming from? Where are they coming from? They are coming from what bothers your mind. What are those things you want to unravel? What are those things you want to achieve? So the research questions come naturally from the statement of the problem. We are still coming to that. What is contained in the statement of the problem? The research question, it is not by accident that we say background to the study. Then we come to statement of problem before research question. Even though there are differences from faculty to faculty, but your statement of problem should motivate your research question. Every question you want to answer must have been motivated in your statement of problem. So, what are the questions you are asking? Your question must also be hand in glove with your objectives. What are your objectives? Each question, when answered, it implies that the objective has been achieved. I want to repeat that. Every question, when answered, implies that each objective has been achieved. So when you are setting your research question, you avoid yes or no answer. Does this one cause this? No. How does this one cause this? What is the impact of this on this? What is the relationship between this on this? So as much as possible, you avoid a yes or no answer. Then from there, we go to the statements of the problem. This is where many of you usually have challenges. What are those things that will be here that I've not said in the background research? How is this one different from the background research? The simple answer is this. The core of research is solving the problem. If you go through undergraduate grading of results, statement of problem carries 20 to 25%. Because you want to know, do they have an idea of the problem identified? So you must be able to identify the problem. That's the first thing. Identify a problem. And what is the source of getting that? It's through the literature. After identifying the problem, you have to attend to what has been done to address the problem. What are those things that have been done? In terms of other people's study, in terms of policies, in terms of programs, in terms of interventions, here and there. The next thing is, why is the problem persist? Because if those things have solved that problem, you won't come back and want to solve it. These are the issues. You want to see that truly there is problem. What is the problem? What has been done to address the problem? In terms of effort of researchers, in terms of institutional contribution, in terms of policies and programs, these are things you want to see. You want to really see you have a problem on your hand that you want to address. Why is the problem persisting? Then you also have to tell us what are the likely implications if this problem is not attended to. Because if you say this is a problem and you say it has not been solved, we want to see that if there is danger if you don't intervene. We want to see your intervention as a means to avert a danger. And that is what the statement of problem is all about. Significance of the study. Telling you specifically what is the relevance of the study. Which areas you find the study interesting. From the field of researchers, institutions, organizations, and the rest. What are those set of people that will find the research useful? And I think I have to add also the scope of the study. Your scope makes your work to be limited to a particular entity, so that you are not exposed to questions in all areas of your study. So you have to identify your scope in terms of geographical spread, in terms of the time space, and you have to justify what is taking you to limit your scope to those areas. Well, the last two slides are not categorically related to the basics of research, but because it's outlined among those things you have to see. That's research design and methodology. I know another group will talk about that, but I will just give a glance of what it's all about. What is the basic introduction? The research design has to tell us about all the inputs that you use in your research, especially when it comes to data, how you source it, how you clean it up, how you check your data, how you code your data, how you classify your data. Everything has to do with data and the quality of data used. It's just a subset of methodology. Methodology is more based. It is more broad-based. Methodology has to do with the entire technique, the expectation, if there is any, and other components of methodology are also taken care of. So naturally, we can choose your methodology from different strands. Some are experimental, some are quantitative, some are qualitative, some are non-experimental, and so on. I think when you get to the area of methodology, more of this will be said. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. Can we appreciate Professor MAKU for the good presentation on the basics of research? Thank you very much.